Everybody, welcome back. I am super excited about this meal, and we're going to go ahead and jump right into our Chicago deep dish pizza. So I've already got my 3 1/4 cups of flour in there. I went ahead and added a 1/2 cup of yellow cornmeal, and then here I'm going to be adding our 1 1/4 teaspoons of salt and a tablespoon of granulated sugar, which we mix together. And obviously I didn't get all the moisture out of this container. Oops. Not a big deal, just scrape it out, and it all goes in. So it'll work. And then there we added our 2 1/4 teaspoons of yeast, quick rise yeast. One interesting thing to note, right now I had a really tough time finding yeast, and luckily we ended up having some, so we are able to go ahead and make this meal. But if you don't have some, just wait, and hopefully soon our stores will be having it back in stock. Then you're going to go ahead and you're going to, just kind of mix up those dry ingredients just a little bit to get that yeast really well spread through there. And then we're going to go ahead and using a dough hook attachment on a standing mixer, we're going to go ahead and begin to mix the dry ingredients. And then as that's mixing, we're going to go ahead and add our wet ingredients. So we're going to start off here with a 1/4 cup of our melted unsalted butter. Okay. Now remember, this is a 1/4 cup. I know the recipe says a 1/2 cup, but you're going to have half of that for later on, and you'll see how we use that a little bit later. So that is a 1/4 cup of melted butter, but not too hot. And here we have our warm water, again, not too hot. Looking for something that's maybe warm to the touch. So if it feels hot to you, you probably got it too hot. You're going to kill your yeast, which will ruin your crust. So don't do that. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit. We're going to hurry along and just add water a little bit at a time, so that way it'll mix right. And then what you're looking for here is you're looking for an even consistency on your dough. So you'll be able to tell, and there you can see we've got something that looks like dough instead of, we don't have any flour along the sides. We don't have any other ingredients that are, hanging out on the sides of the bowl. So we're going to go ahead and lower that down. This is going to be a very sticky dough at this point. And just get that off of there. We are going to add a light coating of olive oil to the inside of a bowl, at least the part that's going to be touching the dough. And also we're going to lightly coat the dough itself in olive oil. And then we're just going to put it in the bowl. We're going to cover that with aluminum foil, and we're going to put it in a warm environment for 1 to 2 hours until it's doubled in size. And if you're looking to make this in the winter and you need an artificial warm environment, go ahead and turn your oven on warm. Turn it off when it heats up, and then you can put your dough in there, close the oven, and it will be warm for your time that you need to rise, which is a pretty cool trick. We didn't need that because it's summer right now, but in the winter we could definitely use that. So here you can see I've just added a little bit of flour to make the dough less sticky, and then here I am forming it into a ball, and then from there we're going to go ahead and coat it in that oil, and we're going to let it rise. Now, because my dough was very sticky, that's why I added that little bit of flour there at the end. So if you also have sticky dough, go ahead and add flour until it's something that you can work with. And on the other hand, if your dough is very tough and it feels a little bit like hard, or it's not that good kind of pliable doughy consistency, then you're going to want to go ahead and add a little bit of water until it becomes easier to work with. Again, it's the same both ways. So there we've added the oil to the bowl. We've coated the dough in oil. Here we're putting the aluminum foil over, and just go ahead and seal that up. And then we're going to go ahead and set it over here where it's warm. Alright, so after we've let our dough sit, we're going to go ahead and pull it out, and on a lightly floured work area, we're going to go ahead and gently punch it down. You're wanting to remove all your air pockets. You want your crust to be pretty thick. And so just gently punch it down just a little bit, and then go ahead and pull it up, form it back into a ball, and what you're going to do is you're going to roll it out into a fairly large rectangle. You're wanting about 15 inches by 12 inches. Okay, and so as you go ahead and get that rolled out, then you are going to take the rest of your butter, that other 1/4 cup. Okay, now you want this butter to be very soft because it's going to be really difficult to work with if your butter is too hard. So make sure that this butter has been sitting out in a warm environment so that it's easy to work with. And then what you're going to do is you're going to take a spatula, preferably a spatula. You could use a knife or a spoon or anything you want, really, that'll work for you. And you're going to spread it pretty evenly across the entire dough. Okay. Now, it doesn't have to be, perfect, but just do your best to get it, in a fairly thick layer, covering the entire top surface of the dough here. And so then after we have done that, then what we're going to do is we're going to take our dough, we're going to roll it up pretty tightly, and then we're going to cut it in half to form 2 balls of dough. Okay? Because this is actually going to make 2 crusts. So that's nice because this is delicious. So you'll be able to make 2 pizzas instead of just 1, because the dough is by far the most time-consuming and labor-intensive part of the entire process. So being able to get 2 for the price of 1 is definitely a benefit of this recipe. All right, so there you can see it's all rolled up. We're going to go ahead and cut it into 2, and then we're going to form those back into balls. And again, you're going to lightly grease them when you place them in the bowl, which again, you want to have lightly greased as well. And then from here, you can freeze them if you want to just make them ahead of time. You could even make a bunch of these if you wanted to, and they will freeze for up to 2 months and be just fine. So there you have it. And if you do freeze them, you're going to want to allow it to thaw overnight, and then rise again for about an hour before you actually make the pizza. So there, we're covering it back up with the foil, and we went ahead and made this the day before. So we just went and put it in the refrigerator for the night, and then we're going to come back and make our pizzas. All right, and so here we are, back again the next day. What you're going to do is you're just going to take your dough, one of your balls of dough, and you're going to roll it out to approximately a 12-inch circle. Okay. Now, again, don't worry about it being perfect. It's not going to be, but just get as close as you can. Then you're going to take it and you're going to put it in a 2-inch pan, and make sure it is a cake pan. A pie pan won't work for this because the angle is going to be off on the sides. And then just like this, you're going to make sure that it's pretty tight against the sides, because you don't want any air or any space between the crust and the pan. Now, one thing that I didn't do, which is actually very traditional, and I would definitely do it in the future if I was going to make this again, is you want to have a layer of oil in your cake pan. And what that's going to do is it's actually going to fry the edges of your crust, the outside edge of your crust, and it's going to make it way easier for you to get your crust out of the pan, because that was one thing that we struggled with when we actually pulled ours out. It doesn't come out of the pan very easily, and it's difficult to get out. So we went ahead and made both of our pizzas, and you'll get to see both of them being made. One of them has toppings, and the other one's just a cheese pizza. And you can add whatever toppings you want when you do yours. Traditionally, it's going to be pepperoni, sausage, maybe some peppers or some onions. And then what you're going to do here is you're going to, again, just put oil on the top edge of your crust. So that'll give it a nice golden brown look. And once again, you would want to do the edges of your cake pan as well, so the entire outside will have that nice kind of fried, crispy crunch that is really a well-known aspect of Chicago deep dish pizza. All right, now moving on to the sauce. This is a pretty simple, basic sauce, not a lot of work involved, and it's pretty quick. So you're going to take your 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter, and you're going to melt that in a medium to large saucepan. You're going to want enough space in here to actually fit all your sauce. So we're adding our 1 small grated onion, about a 1/3 cup, but more or less not that big a deal. 3/4 teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon dried oregano, and a 1/2 teaspoon of crushed red pepper flakes right here after the butter's melted. And you're going to want to let that cook down a little bit to really bring out the flavors in those spices in the onion. Okay, and so we're just going to let that cook for a minute. Now, Chicago deep dish pizza does not have a long involved history like our Chicago dog, which we're going to get to, at the end of this video. That was very cool history. And here we're adding our garlic, 3 cloves of minced garlic, we are adding a 1/4 teaspoon of sugar and one 28-ounce can of crushed tomatoes. And then we're going to stir that and make sure that it's really consistently mixed together. And then we're just going to let that simmer for approximately 30 minutes. So you're going to take the heat down just so that it simmers, and you're going to let it go for 30 minutes. So you want it to reduce down to where you have about 2.5 cups of sauce. And this was very accurate. We had exactly as much sauce as we needed. We did not have any left over. So that's a pretty accurate measurement there. Now, like I said, this doesn't have a very long involved history. The pizza originated in Naples, Italy. They took the flatbread, which has a very long history, all the way back to the Roman Empire, and they would just put a few local toppings on here and there for the working class, in order to provide a really cheap, healthy meal for the working class. So then when Italians immigrated to the US, they brought that with them. Doing here is we used bacon as one of our toppings, so we're just taking a couple pieces of cooked bacon. You probably want to use more than this, and we're just crumbling it up. Now in 1943, a pair of Italian immigrants named Ike Sewell and Rick Riccardo opened a pizzeria, which they called Pizzeria Uno. And they decided to make a pizza that was going to be different, and they made the Chicago deep dish pizza, which still uses the same recipe they made then. That's it. That's the whole history of the Chicago deep dish pizza. They just came up with it kind of on their own. And it does have a reverse layer of toppings. So you got the cheese on the bottom, as you can see here. You're going to use 2 entire pounds of cheese per pizza, which is crazy, but it's good. Then you're going to put your toppings on top of that. And again, something I would change if I was going to make this again, you use a lot of toppings. So I would probably at least double the amount of toppings that I put on here. But you can see you do want a pretty substantial layer. It's not like a normal pizza that you're going to get, from your local pizzeria. You do want a pretty thick layer, because otherwise it's not really going to affect the flavor. You're not even going to hardly be able to taste it. So yeah, just to put whatever toppings you want. As you can see, we use bacon, pepperoni, and mushrooms. 3 things that I really like. And then from there, you are going to add your sauce. And as you can see here, you kind of want to get your sauce all the way over the top, because the goal of the sauce here, or the purpose of it, why we put it on top, or why it is put on top, is to protect the ingredients, because this takes a while to cook, much longer than a normal pizza. And so if you did not have the sauce on there, your toppings and your cheese would all burn. And so the sauce actually acts as a buffer and protects all your ingredients and lets them cook the right way. And man, does it make a really good, tasty pizza. So yeah, there you go. You can see the one with the toppings is finished, and we're just going to go ahead and spread this one out, and then we are going to, like I said, use up the entire thing of sauce. And yeah, again, because of the purpose of the sauce to protect all the ingredients underneath, you do want to have this pretty evenly spread out. You don't want to have any holes or areas where the heat can get through. And then you can add Parmesan on top, significant amount of Parmesan, and that's it. Now we're going to throw it in the oven. It's going in at 425 degrees for 20 to 28 minutes. Now after 15 minutes, you are going to want to put either a pie shield, which is what we use here, or you can take it out and put foil over the edges, over the crust, because otherwise your crust will probably burn. And that's it. And then after the 20 to 28 minutes is done, you're going to go ahead and take it out, let it cool for 10 minutes, and then you can pull it out, slice it, and enjoy. Here in just a minute, I'll take the pie shield off and you'll be able to see ours, which again was absolutely delicious.